What is up, Critics? In this video, I'm giving a guide for this week's normal time trial, RC Bandito time trial, and the premium race, totaling over $300,000. Remember, the time trials can only be completed once a week for the full $100,000 payout. The premium race, however, can be completed in a limited amount of times with a 48-minute cooldown between each win. Also keep in mind that rocket-powered / flying vehicles cannot be used in time trials. So, starting off with the time trial this week, which is Great Ocean Highway. I highly recommend either the Pariah, the Tally GTO, the Vest 8, Emerus, or Krieger for this time trial. And if you're on a budget, I recommend a fully upgraded Baddie 801, constantly holding wheelies. Now, in terms of route, this time trial doesn't really have any shortcuts. It's mainly top speed based on the highway, and it's pretty easy for the most part. Now, the hardest part of this time trial is definitely avoiding the traffic in the beginning section. It can get quite annoying, and one of the most annoying things about this time trial is that if you respawn, it spawns you at the bottom of the parking garage, so you have to drive up all the way 5 floors up to the very top of the parking garage in circles every single time if you fail, which can get a bit annoying if you fail it a few times. So as always, I will be using the Podium Vehicle of the current event week on these time trials if they're quick enough to complete them. So this week we have the Entity XXR on the podium, and this actually works out pretty well because the XXR has a good top speed in mainly highway situations and smooth surface situations, and that's what this time trial is, mainly highway and smooth, so this works out pretty well. Now, even though the XXR has these slow handling flags, which makes the car go slower when you go over bumps, once you get on that highway section, it's pretty much smooth sailing all the way to the end with a pretty consistent top speed all the way there. Now, even with that, it still does cut it pretty close, and after a couple attempts because of the traffic messing me up in the beginning, I was able to beat the time trial in my fully upgraded Entity XXR. Moving on to this week's RC Bandito time trial, which is Cypress Flats. As always, you need to own an RC Bandito in order to participate in these. So this RC time trial is pretty tricky if you've never done it before because of the traffic and the high-speed bumpy sections. So for this time trial, make sure to let off the throttle before most of the bumps and the curbs to avoid losing control of your Bandito. Now if you see that you're going over a curb and the Bandito flips or spins out or goes onto wheels, again, to avoid that happening, let off the throttle before you get to that bump. And then after you go over the bump, it'll go over nice and smoothly, then get back on the throttle again. The Bandito is a little weird like that. Most of the time, to correct anything bad happening, just let off the throttle and it'll go very smoothly. And also make sure to brake for the tighter sections as well. And lastly, when you use your brakes, make sure to press them in about halfway in, not all the way, or you might lose control of your Bandito. And lastly, we have this week's premium race, which is Boots on the Ground. This one is restricted to the motorcycles class. I highly recommend either the Shotaro or a Hakushu drag for this race. Now this is a very easy race, and it's basically just driving around the military base at top speed. The hardest part where people make the most mistakes is definitely the first 90-degree turn left. Make sure to always brake a little there to be safe, or you will end up hitting the wall on the far right side, which will make you respawn. So the rest of the race is pretty much just full throttle, but anyways, I will be using a fully upgraded Shotaro for this race, and that is the easiest one for this race by far. And that's it, guys. Normal time trial is pretty easy if you use one of the fast cars I mentioned. The RC time trial is pretty difficult if you've never done it before, so just let off the throttle for most of the bumpy sections. And this week's premium race is pretty easy if you use either of the two bikes I mentioned and brake for that main corner. Again, remember guys, you can earn over $300,000 between the three this week, and setting yourself a goal to beat them is always a lot of fun in my personal opinion. Let me know which one you found most difficult and what vehicles you used down below in the comments. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.